Alam niyo ba, ang Pilipinas ay isa sa pinakamaraming mga online users. In fact, nasa 45 million ang mga online users at wala pa dito ang mga nasa internet.
Almost half ng population.
Oo.
Kalahati ng ating populasyon. Pero alam mo, sabi nila, no, kung pag-uusapan lang naman yung security ng mga information natin sa social media, medyo malayo pa daw ang ating bansa.
Oo, actually.
Okay, so it's about time to dig deep about this issue on cybersecurity. To talk more about this, we have a guest all the way from the USA. We have the president of Hathaway Global Strategies LLC. Let's welcome Miss Melissa Hathaway. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Bagong Pilipinas. Thank you so much for joining us. So we were talking about, of course, our cybersecurity. But the first question is, as the government and the companies rapidly pursue digital transformation, can you share some insights on the overall cybersecurity landscape?
Yeah, I think that as first of all, I'm very happy to be here, so thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Jules and Chichi and Karen. The digital landscape, all of our companies are becoming more digital these days. We're incorporating more technologies into our companies and into our critical infrastructures as governments. We're connecting people, places, and things to the internet more and more. And as we start to become more connected, it's really important that we up-level the enterprise risk management and the governance processes to address the risks that some of these technologies may have. They're certainly going to bring about efficiency and modernization and GDP growth for our countries and bottom line growth for our corporations. But it's really important that we start to think about risk reduction measures as we're incorporating those technologies.
So, okay, Ms. Hathaway, in your opinion, do you think the Philippines is ready to take in all the cybersecurity threats?
Well, I think that the Philippines is on a good path because you actually published your cybersecurity strategy in 2017, and the DICT is actually now empowered to start to make some of those measures to come to reality as far as things go. The Philippines is becoming more connected with its broadband plan, but as we start to see more of the companies become more connected and you're starting to bring that connectivity to more of the countryside, it'll be very important to make sure that the technologies are not exploited by foreign governments or by others or by criminals to take advantage of our citizens.
Okay, Chi mentioned a while ago that almost half of the population of the Philippines are online. So what do you think should be the strategies of the government to ensure that the infrastructures of cybersecurity will be ensured?
Well, first and foremost, the most important thing, which is articulated in your strategy, is make sure they're up and running. And there are really three critical infrastructures that must be up and running at all times. First is electricity, because without electricity, nothing works.
Correct.
Second is telecommunications, because without telecommunications, nothing moves. And the third is finance, because you really need to have movement of capital across borders. It enables your overall economy. Those would be the three priority infrastructures to make sure that there's continuity of availability at all times. And that's the most important thing that government can focus on. And then with that, then citizens should be more protected.
Yeah, speaking of the government and the citizen, how can they protect the privacy of every citizen without compromising, of course, their information?
Yeah, I think that the privacy, the data protection and data privacy is debate is really important all around the world, and each of our countries are approaching it differently. You have the Data Privacy Commissioner who is leading a lot of the efforts here in the Philippines, and actually the Philippines is one of the top countries in the ASEAN region of taking the data protection and privacy seriously and moving and advancing the laws of your law from 2012. Although as we start to put more of our information online, as more of your citizens are embracing Facebook, you really need to make sure that your citizens are conscious of what they're putting out there and how that might be taken advantage of by commercial companies.
Yes, Filipinos really love posting ATM at the moment photos.
Yeah. Okay, given that this is very new to us, this is very new to the Philippines, do we need more cybersecurity experts to guide us to, to know the do's and don'ts and to make sure that our accounts are well protected?
Yeah, I think that we need experts in all of these fields. Digital risk is coming into not just our technologies, but it's coming into understanding the law, it's coming into medicine, it's coming into every actually field that we have as far as professions, that everybody needs to start to become more digitally savvy as citizens and how they execute their professions. So that requires us to start to bring digital literacy down into kindergarten and into the lower schools. Just like we teach math and science, we're going to have to start to think about what it means to be a good digital citizen and how you start to protect yourself as a digital citizen going forward, because everything will be digital in our children's lives for the rest of their futures.
That's true, because even some kids right now are having their social media, I mean, they have their smartphones. Instead of playing around, they have their phones. So it's really important that they teach it as young as kindergarten. Anyway, in terms of best practices, sharing of best practices, you are from the US, so what do you think could be the best practices of the US that may be applied here in the Philippines?
The best practices in what?
In terms of cybersecurity.
In terms of cybersecurity, I think if I were advising the president and the government, DICT, it's, the first and foremost is make sure those top 3 infrastructures are always available. And that will require an information sharing with those companies that are delivering those capabilities. Sharing information as much as possible that the military might have or the law enforcement might have. The more everybody knows together, the better off everybody will be. I think the third thing that I would recommend is partnering within the region. We don't always have and know what's best, and so there's things that we can learn here, from Singapore, or Japan, or Thailand, or even China, that there are different opportunities everywhere, and so learn from our colleagues. And then fourth, when a disaster hits, you have to be able to recover quickly. And we talked about, recovery time objectives yesterday of 30 minutes for the financial institutions, but think about it as a national. If you had a national digital crisis like you did with an earthquake or a typhoon, how quickly could you bring up all of the digital assets, and how would you bring them up first, second, third? And thinking through that, I think is going to be really important. Those would be my top 4.
Like what we said earlier, half of the Filipinos are on social media. So in this age of social media, what tips can you give to the Filipino people to, of course, secure their personal data, especially in the internet?
I think the most important thing from a social media perspective is first, check your privacy settings and make sure that the privacy settings are set to what you want, how you want to share information, that it's only with your friends and family and not publicly available. I think second is think about what you're putting up on the internet and in those social media platforms, because it's going to be there forever. And that I can't even stress this enough with my own children, it will be there forever. So make sure when you post that picture, it's something that you don't think you're going to mind 5 years from now when you're interviewing for a major job in a corporation. Those would be the top 2 things, I think. Check the privacy settings and think before you post.
Yeah, think before you click. It's very important.
Correct.
Think before you post, think before you click.
Considering that you were the consultant of the ex-President Obama and as well as ex-President Bush, what do you think should the Philippines learn from the U.S. since you pretty much saw how it started there? Whereas on our end, we're still there. We're still starting. We're in the beginning. Whereas in the U.S., you're already talking about like cyber Armageddon and all these things, because I watched your interview. So how should we learn from the U.S.?
I think the most important thing is that embracing the digital innovation, the economic opportunity of these technologies, and at the same time investing in the security and resilience. And so when I worked for President Bush, we focused on the national security risks, and we made the arguments on national security lines of why we needed to have cybersecurity. But when I worked for President Obama, we had to make the arguments on economic reasons, that it was about the digital opportunity, it was about GDP growth, and neither one were balanced. And so I think the most important thing, and the thing that I work with other countries is that they have to be balanced. You can't pursue a digital innovation agenda without embedding security and resilience. If not, you just made the country more vulnerable. And you can't pursue everything based on a national security risk because you might lose the economic opportunity. They have to be balanced. And that requires our countries and our government to work more holistically about all the strengths that all the departments bring, not just one department.
Very interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, as a way forward, I've been watching international news specifically with Facebook. Facebook officials have been invited several times at the Capitol for several issues. So as users, as account users, do we have any power to maybe ask Facebook to ensure that our data will be secured from their end, and can we ensure or ask them that our data will just be used by Facebook only and not by other commercial entities?
So the problem with these free platforms, whether it's Facebook or Google or Twitter or even others, right? You're not paying for the service.
That's right.
So you're the commodity. And so you have to really recognize that there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's a saying we have in the United States. So you're the actual commodity. So do you have any rights to the data? No.
No.
But this is where our privacy laws start to come into play. And while you had the opportunity to use Facebook, Facebook did not have the right to sell that data and to make it available to so many developers. And they were found to be negligent in how they actually were administrating their enterprise, which is why they're the subject of so many investigations around the world. And
even
Cambridge,
in Europe, right?
And Cambridge Analytica is just one example of the negligence that they had actually in their infrastructure of protecting our data. And it went against even their own rules that they claimed that they followed.
Thank you so much.
I wish we had more time.
We need 1 hour at least for this.
Yeah,
one.
and it's a blessing to have her on the show.
We're so
Thank you
honored
so
to have you here.
I'm so happy to be in the Philippines.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again. We had Miss Melissa Hathaway, President of Hathaway Global Strategies LLC. Sabi nga nila, you have to think before you click because everything you post online or delete online is already in the clouds. Diba? Sabi nila, Apple Cloud, ganyan. So you just have to be careful with our personal data.
Be wise.
Be wise.
Write what's right only.
Yeah, oo nga, tama. Again, thank you so much.